We're snorting cap rates and shooting up cash flow here at Deal Junkie. Welcome back to Deal Junkies. We are a real estate podcast for people who want to buy real estate, people who want to buy all of the real estate. I'm Gabe Johansson. I'm here with Trevor Howard, Mike Nuss, and Dane McKinney. We're excited to bring you this show. Dane, oh no, who's gonna lead us today? We got some stuff.
Well, Dane, tell us what we're going to talk about today.
So we were trying to make decisions on who we were aiming at, who we were targeting in terms of listeners. I think all the same people are going to listen no matter what, which is like not very many people other than our moms and maybe your kids. I don't really know. Trevor.
This will be a funny soundbite to play with.
I had my daughter in a seller negotiation yesterday.
You offered her to a seller?
She witnessed.
Anything for a deal.
And this guy was such a deal junkie. I figured it out. He didn't actually want to do a deal. He wanted an excuse to negotiate real estate, and he wants to write the contract. I think that's ultimately what he wants, is to write the paperwork. He's such a deal junkie. You guys would love it.
And how did your daughter get involved in that?
How'd she help?
She was there. She was just there to see the house.
She's going to review the paperwork.
Have the conversation.
He writes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. She checked out about halfway through to go sit in the car with the dog.
How old's your daughter?
15.
Oh, that's a good time to learn real estate.
Yeah. All right. Sorry. I didn't mean to sidetrack.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I'm just so excited for to see how you guys react to the sentence that is on whitehouse.gov.
I thought Trevor wanted to start us off.
I want you to give us high level so people know what we're going to talk about.
Oh, okay. So last week we had the State of the Union delivered by President Joe Biden. And I didn't really listen to the whole thing. However, I did listen to the portion of it that was on United States housing and how there's a housing shortage.
No.
Okay.
That's what he thinks.
There is?
Yeah, I know. So we'll get into that, but we've got some time before it. I think that frankly we could break this down into three parts, which is the tax credit, the low income housing incentives, and then the actual monetary amount that he is using to do that. And then there's a couple sentences in here that I think you guys are just going to love.
But before we do that, Trevor read a book he wants to tell us about.
Oh yeah, tell us about book club.
Well, Mike assigned me last episode. He assigned me a book to read. I said I would go
This is the sign of a young youth just sucking in all of the marrow of education and experience that one can take in life.
Clip that.
Suck in the marrow. What kind of marrow did you suck in?
I think you told me to read that book. It was called The Surrender Experiment by Mickey
Singer.
Yeah. I think you told me to read it because you thought we were overthinking everything we were doing, right?
No, you.
I said that.
Well, I thought you thought the same.
I feel like you could live in the moment a little bit, be a little less anxious about your deals. Yeah.
I read the book, and then I'm not sure what your point was after I read the book. So this book, I went and read it. It's this guy. He's like a yogi. He has this voice in his head, which are his thoughts. He tries to silence the voice through the first half of his life, and then he surrenders to the voice into life. And he basically does like yes theory. He says yes to everything that happens. He eventually creates a software company with no computer knowledge that becomes like $1 billion company and sells it. But before that, he was building yogi temples and meditating all the time. So the point of the book was he quiets his mind or learns how to meditate and control his mind and his thoughts in some way. But my question was why? What was your?
Yeah,
what was
I have a different take.
Takeaway?
Yeah, so I had a different take. Your take was surrender to your thoughts.
Well, no, he said to no longer work. So he would go the opposite of how he felt and not let his thoughts control his actions, essentially.
Yeah, well, I read it years ago. I look at it as surrender to life. Okay. More of a life, right? Like it's a key to being outcome independent, right? So if you're surrendered to life, you don't care about the outcome. You believe you're on the right track. You're doing the things that matter. It takes anxiousness out of it. Makes negotiations easier. It makes deal analysis easier, makes communication with human beings easier in my mind. It's like living in a place of peace.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which It was interesting because like it all worked out for him, but he became a college professor at one point. I think I was telling you, Gabe, about this. He decided not to plan for the class at all. Day one, didn't think about the class, showed up day one and was like, I'm just going to teach whatever comes to mind. And that's how he taught a full college course for multiple years.
How'd that go?
On economics.
Really on economics.
Yeah.
It went really well for him. And he said people would just come to the class and he would double attendance of people who weren't even in the class. And then he got offered some other role from the college from it. And that was just how he went about life. And then like started a construction company because someone asked him to build a house for him. And then it grew to a large scale construction company. And yeah.
What is yes theory?
Yes theory is just the idea of you, rather than saying no to things, you say yes to opportunities that present themselves at a rate that you wouldn't normally do so.
Yeah. All right. So that's kind of a spiritual principle I believe in real estate is the deals that come to you and the opportunities that come to you came to you for a reason. And it's hard to say no to things that it feel like, it landed in your lap. But sometimes you say yes to everything and they don't all work out.
So his point, though, was to specifically say yes to the things that his body was telling him no to.
Yeah.
And then it took him in this crazy direction.
So he went opposite of, he didn't trust his gut and his instinct. He went opposite of his gut and instinct.
He dove into discomfort.
Yeah. There's a lot of that, a lot of talking about that right now, that's like aging is just the pursuit of comfort and, staying uncomfortable is part of the key to life, I think, and growth and longevity.
Yeah. But it was an interesting book. I'd never read anything like it.
So I'm glad you said that because I was a little worried that I sent you down a rabbit hole. The way I look at it is I see you two are going to accomplish things Gabe and I have not accomplished. It's a matter of when, not if, and it's a matter of just timelines. And if you apply that mindset to all the deals that you're looking at, you just have this different philosophical, spiritual filter. And now you're evaluating things based on, is this a fun deal? Is this a good deal? Versus how does this fit into the overall career arc that I'm going on? And so you just get less distractions because you immediately know that's a waste of time. That's a waste of time. That's a waste of time. Does that make sense?
It's less fragmented. You're organizing.
Yes.
You're organizing upon one goal rather than being tossed about from every little deal here and there that might be taking you off the main target.
My coach Jason. So I hired Jason Dries. What he says is when you're in alignment. So when you're living a life of surrender, you're in alignment with where you're going. The details just show up. And that's what I've seen in the past few months since I got my life in alignment. It's what Gabe. Just stuff falls in your lap. Like it just. You are here. You have these skills. You have this momentum. You have this network around you. And if you just allow that to work, get out of its own way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't force it.
Don't force it.
Let it happen.
Yeah.
But you have to be in alignment first.
I hope that provides some value to someone who's listening to this.
It does.
Okay.
Yeah,
if you're not in alignment, you're just letting every opportunity that comes your way spin you in every different direction. You've got no direction. So you got to start. You have to start with alignment.
Yeah.
Then surrender.
So, and I had a coaching session yesterday with Jason, and the words that came out of my mouth is, here's what I'm experiencing. I got into alignment and the details started showing up. And now what I'm seeing is the people around me, more even specifically my staff and our businesses, are getting into alignment. Like I'm pulling everyone into alignment with me, and now things are falling into place for them as well.
Is that because you're painting the vision better of what alignment is?
Yes. Because it's hard to, and there was a session in halfway through my contract with him where I'm like, I doubted, am I even a visionary? I can't think more than like 3 months ahead right now. My brain couldn't allow it. And he's like, well, you're just getting into alignment. You're going through a transition. Your brain is keeping you where it needs to be because that's what your staff needs. Like they need that comfort of knowing that you have the right ideas and you're going to get through that transition and then everything will open up. And then now 3 months into that transition, it has. So yeah, I think I couldn't vision because I wasn't in alignment. I was getting into that process. Yeah.
That's the one thing I noticed once we started sharing our vision or our thoughts with other people.
Yeah.
So many people hop on board with it because they like it. And we used to not do that at all. And that's something, Gabe, you're really good at is you'll go sit down with someone, you'll give them this vision, and then they take whatever they will out of it and then come back later and be like, this is what I did with it. That's pretty cool.
Well, it sharpens you because now they're challenging it, or they're extending your thought process and bringing it back. And that's like I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it was the guy being interviewed. I love this. I learn in real time. And then you could hear an amazing mind, like coach to amazing people. And he's like, I learned this, I learned this, I learned this. And that's exactly what sharing your vision is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'll riff off that. Is like, that was the most powerful part of Gabe, is that I've heard him state his vision in the exact same way to 30 different people. And that's the only reason that it's so powerful. That's the only reason that you're constantly having people come in, because there's never been a scenario where you had asked for something or said that you wanted a thing, whatever it was. I mean, it's always related to real estate for the most part. And then like a month later, somebody came back and was like, I figured it out. And you were like, what do you mean you figured it out? And they were like, well, you said you wanted to. Like, every time somebody's come back to you, it's like, that's perfect. That's awesome. And that was why like I was so motivated to work with you, was because we sat there for 3 hours and you just reiterated the exact same vision over and over. And I was like, I like
what's the
that.
vision? You'll have to tell me. I
Own all the real estate.
I was speaking in tongues. Oh, is that the vision?
Yeah.
Why does it take me 3 hours to say own all the real estate?
It's the context you got to add.
Oh, I got to paint the whole picture.
Yeah, humans can't chew that. Own all the real estate. Check. I'm done. My mind's out. Switch off.
Yeah.
3 hours to get that switch back on.
You need a frame of reference. Okay.
No, and part of it too is like as a broker, because I was so new to brokering at the time, and you just made it really clear how you could be a broker and also be an investor. And then you gave me like the picture of what it meant to be an investor and a broker, and how I could still serve clients, how it wasn't a conflict of interest, how it was like, well, no,
just the opposite.
In any scenario, yeah, you would rather know what you were doing. And like the clients that I have seen served the worst have been the people who know nothing about investments.
Sure.
When somebody who doesn't know anything about investments brokers a deal to somebody with money, who would like to invest, those are the worst deals, because it's like they're selling them on something that they don't understand. And anytime you're selling somebody on a deal, it's just your genuine feelings.
But it's great to be on the other side of a bad broker.
My goodness.
This is what Mike and I were talking about.
I know.
Bad brokers make us rich. So don't throw too much shade.
I'm not saying, no, we love you. Just keep talking to it.
We should really have a list of all the brokers that we just follow.
Rip deals.
New listing, go talk.
So is that all we had on the book? So we're going to surrender. Mike says it brings you peace. You say something else.
I was conflicted by
he's
the message.
He's saying you go with the universe. You're saying he goes against his thoughts. So maybe his thoughts weren't in alignment with the universe.
I'm not sure exactly.
Maybe we got to read this book again.
It sounds like a guy who's living a conflicted life right now.
Me?
I will tell you this from personal experience, is the whole trust your gut thing doesn't work for me. I've been married 3 times, so that's, proof.
Well, there's different arenas of life where maybe your gut doesn't work as good as the other.
Going with the flow and going with what my gut tells me to do has gotten me into a lot of trouble. And so you may be somebody who has the luxury of following your gut, and I'm not one of those people. So,
are you sure that the first 2 were your gut?
I mean, I tend to kind of like what Trevor, yeah. It's close to my
Thanks
gut.
for pulling out of the essence of what I was trying to get at there.
If you kicked me in the nuts, it would feel like it was in my guts. Yeah. No, it was just kind of like, I got to the point where I realized that I couldn't trust myself. I can't trust my own instinct. My instinct is going to try to kill me. And so I have to find a way to live life in a different way. And so I actually learned years ago, about 20 years ago, actually, to not follow my instinct. And I think kind of what Trevor's talking about is I do surrender. I surrender to something bigger than myself, but I don't surrender to myself and to my own thoughts. I don't trust my own brain. but I do trust what's coming at me. I do trust the opportunities that are coming my way. And I believe that everybody, like, I mean, when you think about however long the earth has been here and how people got here and how the four of us are sitting in a room right now, and you look at the odds of that happening, I feel like there's no way this can be an accident. All four of us are sitting here for a reason. Trevor's got something to say about that.
That was the point of the book, what he said. He didn't read the book at all, but that he knows.
So in what's better than the book is his Audible course, Living a Life of Surrender. I think it's chapter 2 or chapter 3. He gets deep into that, and it's a course of a lecture. And that's what you missed, in my opinion, is you applied it to yourself and not to his, like... He's not surrendering to his own thoughts. He's surrendering to the universe.
Yeah.
If you look at his macro view.
There's a big power out there that wants us all to succeed and have rich, fulfilling lives and do all the deals and make all the money and own all the real estate. It wants us to have that. The only thing that's going to get in the way is us. It's what's happening in between your 2 ears that's going to get in the way. It's fear. It's greed. It's ego. It's, it's selfishness. It's all the things that are not good. It's all the things that are good that want you to succeed. And so when Mike talks about alignment, that's what you got to get yourself in alignment with. If it's self-serving and it's greedy and it's egotistical and you're full of fear, you're going to make the wrong moves.
Yep. Eventually.
I mean, you might do a couple of things the right way, but for the most part, I think you're going to I think you're not in alignment. If that's what's driving you.
That was a really good book summary for not reading the book.
Okay, I won't read it then.
you don't need to. You get it.
You could have written it.
All right, 10 minutes on a book review. We should probably move.
All right. Dane. Trevor wants to stop you before you
go. That was Mike's book review. I'm reading a bond book now.
Ooh,
oh my goodness.
Bonds are kind of crazy.
Trevor wants to buy bonds.
No, it's the history of our finance stacking. That is how this America was built. It's how all the real estate was built.
I just started that one, so I'll report back on that later. But bonds are kind of wild.
So you want to own bonds?
I don't know. I'll let you know after I finish.
Can we just issue bonds?
Well, that's what I was also.
Yes, we can.
Funny
we
that
do,
you
in
bring
fact,
that
issue bonds. In fact, if we're good at issuing bonds, there's a whole nother strategy to that.
All right.
You mean
TBD?
Personal?
So we're gonna talk more about bonds in another.
Tune in next week.
I can't wait to hear about bonds. I kind of want to hear about
Trevor's
it right now.
His face lit up.
So
that's what the audience can't see. I'm excited. What's the book?
It's literally
called The Bond Book, I think.
Called The Bond Book, yes.
I've been wanting a new economic thing to go after.
Gabe texts something kind of arbitrarily about bonds, and then 15 minutes later, Trevor texts a receipt of an Amazon order, and he said, I don't know anything about these. Now I will. It was The Bond Book.
My gut says that you can make money in bonds right now as interest rates start to eventually go down, because doesn't that mean the price of them will go up?
Yes.
Of course, that might already be baked in. I'm not a bond trader, so I don't know, but it seems like
it's baked in until the Fed happens, and then everything changes.
Yeah. Sorry, I got lost.
Dane's right.
I may have accidentally. I was doing a time.
I just hope people can hear you whisper that out.
I was time stamping, and then it came in 3 seconds late.
Whisper it out. Get out that. Yeah. Mike said something smart.
And then I checked my email on accident. That's not good.
Okay, so now Dane's gonna.
We will.
You're gonna take us down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Get us all fired up.
I will say, for those who would like to read a book similar to whatever that is, but better, The Comfort Crisis. Incredible book. Yeah. Have you read that?
I've heard good.
Really should. Yeah. It sounds like it's a similar deal.
Why would you say better?
But it's about because it's not all philosophical.
You
it's
just shit on my favorite author.
Great book too.
Second favorite.
My bad on that. So subjective. I apologize.
No, it's not subjective. It's real.
His opinion is subjective.
Yeah.
Not the book.
No, my opinion's real. His is not.
Okay. So anyways,
let's get on track.
Comfort Crisis, great book.
That's why I'm a good negotiator. My opinion's all that matters.
State of the Union.
Oh, here we go.
We have to talk on. We're not getting political.
Oh, I hate when sellers get political. I don't know where to fit in.
We're not getting political.
Okay, good.
This is just going to be our objective takes on 3 different points that were. I actually have a question.
The question is, are you going to put these quotes into context?
Yeah, well, the article's not that long.
So there's no context to the quotes?
I mean, there definitely is. It's long enough that I'm not going to read the whole thing, but you can ask fair questions. I don't think that I'm not a media journalist. So quote number 1, there is a problem in the housing supply, obviously. We figured that out.
Affordability crisis.
Supply actually affects affordability.
Really?
I know.
Oh my.
Imagine
you
that.
mean when there's less of something?
Macro Mike has spoken.
Things cost more.
Yeah, it gets complicated to dig into that because we have like in the market rate level now, we don't have a lack of supply. In the 30 to 60% AMI and the 20 to 30% AMI and the what 0 to 30, 30 to 60,
what is AMI?
And 60 to 80 area median income adjusted
Adjusted
area median
adjusted median income.
Yes, for which they do by areas or locales.
Average.
And so why is that the case?
Why?
It's really easy to build market rate housing. No one gets in your way. You got to deal with the government at the most basic level the government is going to be involved in. So you can create housing for a demographic that makes sense because it fits your pocketbook without wanting to attempt suicide before you actually get a return for all your efforts. Affordable housing requires your debt stack is probably 5 layers deep. You're dealing with banks and governments and bonds and tax credits and the worst tenants to deal with and mental health and drugs. And you throw everything in what it takes to create housing for the people that can't afford it. And it's nothing but problems. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no.
Yeah. So we can produce. We know how to produce for market rate. We can't produce for non-market rate because the subsidy that's required with the government. And we just can't figure that part out.
Funny you say that. Quote number 1.
So we're going to fix it with the government subsidy.
The home ownership rate right now is higher than before the pandemic. Good thing.
How much higher?
And there are more.
No, but Wall Street's buying all that. No, that can't be right. I've been told Blackstone's buying everything.
The Blackstreet Boys
are back.
That's a good name for our next entity, Blackstreet. I like that.
They're performing in Eugene, by the way.
I think we could get probably canceled for that or something. The big C. And there are more housing units under construction right now than any time in the last 50 years. This is the part I like. Thanks to the actions taken under this administration. So I agree with the first half of the sentence. It's just that little piece that...
well, you have to add that in there.
What do you think it's due to, though? Why do you think they're under construction right now?
So the actions to create a pipeline of the most housing units under construction now, guess when they took place?
5 to 10 years ago.
Yes, exactly. Right. So that's where the land development cycle took place, where zoning regulations were changing, demographics brought in capital. The capital looks 10 years ahead and they start planning to do things. And now we're on the back end of that cycle in delivery mode. And so our politicians do what politicians do best is they take credit for something that has nothing to do with politics.
My first question is, are any of those stats even true?
White House says they are.
That's a good place to start.
Yeah.
Can we fact check that?
I mean,
if Donald Trump said it, we would fact check it, right?
Well, so the home ownership rate has gone up for single family housing because we made affordability the best it's ever been by artificially low interest rates for a period of time. So then homeowners took over a share of stuff. Now, the thing that's different is he's conflating 2 completely different things. One is home ownership of single family homes. The other is production of housing, which is mostly apartments.
But are you looking at total number of homeowners or total percentage versus renters?
That's what it's a percentage is the metric they look at.
Because I believe we have a higher percentage of renters today than we have in decades.
Oh yeah, because Oregon's over. So
if they're talking about home ownership rate, I would call bullshit on that data and say that is not accurate, because we have a higher percentage of renters today than we had before.
What's the other option? What do you think they're talking about?
It might be total number of people that own a home, because we have more and more household formation. That's the problem with, like Mike pointed this out in one of his presentations.
Stats are
he did the first one I ever listened to you, where you said stats are all bullshit, basically, because you pick and choose which one you want to look at. You spin it the way you want to spin it. You can make it look either direction. So I would say that just using our own common sense, it is not accurate that more and more people are owning homes today than they were before. I would say we are moving into a renter nation, and more people are renting than they ever have before.
Oh yeah, certainly in Oregon. That's what.
Definitely in Oregon.
Yeah,
definitely.
Because we're at like 58-42 right now.
Yeah, I believe that just from a shortage standpoint, HUD says that Oregon is number one on the list for
percentage wise
for housing shortage.
Yeah, we're 140,000 units short right now, soon to be much more, seeing as there haven't been any permits pulled for multifamily.
And when you say units, are you talking multifamily or just houses and apartments?
Dwellings.
Yeah.
We're 140,000. HUD says we're 140,000 units,
that's
houses or apartments shy of equilibrium.
That's Fred data.
By the number of households versus the number of housing units.
Yeah. So we got a lot of
and that's the argument that's made, because overall, but then you look at the different demographics and you're going to see the majority of that is then shoved into the lower AMI brackets, and that's where it gets super complicated. And then that's where we want to create paintbrush blanket solutions based on a small demographic, or not a small demographic, but a demographic that those changes aren't necessarily going to spear gun solutions to.
So I listened to a presentation a few weeks ago from a gal, and she talked about one of the local appraisers here. She was at the economic forum SVN puts on. It was a good presentation.
Katie
Bands, and she did a really good job. And she talked about, the most interesting part to me was a market rate unit, apartment unit. She talked about the average to build is $200,000 to $225,000 a door. You go to build for affordable LIHTC, lift grants, all the other stuff, like what Mike's talking about, those layers of complexity that you add. You start to go prevailing wage, what amenities we need. You've got this certain type of population we have to serve, and that unit comes out of the ground at between 300 and 350,000. So if I build a unit for $200K and I can go rent it for $2,000 a month, but I build affordable housing at $350, and that tenant moves in at $500 a month, you can understand why it's a difficult equation to solve.
It requires subsidy.
It requires subsidy, and it requires a lot of subsidy.
Yeah, so it's not just subsidy, it's significant amounts.
And it's not just significant at the front end to get it built. It's significant because that person and all those tenants that live there forever are going to have to be subsidized. So where does all that money come from in order to make that, what if you were to do it, if you were to do a model on this, Trevor would tell you, well, you can't do it at it wouldn't even pencil at 2,000. As a matter of fact, it wouldn't even pencil at 3,000, but these people are paying $500 because it's subsidized. Well, now it's being subsidized, probably the amount it's being subsidized. They should almost just write a check to these people and tell them to go rent a market rate unit.
Yeah. That's actually the easiest solution to the problem. And the other component you add is now, property management, right? The most notorious property managers are usually the management companies that manage the government-owned buildings, because they have to have their own arm manage it, and they just aren't qualified property managers, and they're managing the tenants that take the most intense management. And so you throw that into that sector because you now have the most involved management level. And so when we talk about the capital stack, you usually have a bank loan, you have tax credits, you have whatever type of grant, you have equity from the nonprofit developers, always the magic piece. And so they're then the property manager, the servicer, and they have an equity piece. And so you have to have someone that has a service mindset that's willing to go through all those layers to get paid out 10, 15 years down the road.
Oh, yeah.
When this ultimately gets repackaged and sold to another entity through some different subsidized program to make the numbers make sense. And all the while, in the meantime, you're going through staff because you're running the worst type of property management, like the most difficult type of property management to stay staffed over a long period of time. Mm-hmm. So who wants to sign up for that?
I'll do it.
There are a couple of developers in our area.
I know one.
They've found the formula, and they're big enough, and they know how to work the system well enough to where they can bring units out of the ground. And I think the play is that they make their big developer fee up front. And then they just sit on the project. It's title restricted, deed restricted for 20 years, 25 years or whatever. And they let the thing ride out. And then at the end, it can be converted to market rate housing or whatever. So it's not a long-term investment cycle play. It's more of a developer. I'm going to profit now, and I know how to grease the skids, and I know how to get a project out of the ground. So I'm going to bring as many units as I can out of the ground with government money and pay myself as a developer, and then sit on this asset long term.
It's even more finance related than just a normal real estate deal.
Yeah. It really is. Dane.
Well,
Trevor's got something.
I used ChatGPT real quick, and I looked up the home ownership percentage rate for you.
It's like 60% nationwide, right?
This, I don't know how accurate this is, but this says in 2021 it was 38.2%
home
across the United States.
Of renters.
No, of owners. Rental rate was 61.8%.
Do I have it backwards in my brain?
Or ChatGPT does. I don't
Was
know.
it for Oregon?
I think it's wrong.
It can never be wrong. ChatGPT.
This is what we got, Dane.
Do you pay for 4?
It's only wrong given the context of the question. Did you ask the question backwards?
Okay, let's move on.
What was the next quote?
The Census Bureau says Q4 2023 homeownership rate is 65.7%.
Up from 62 probably.
It is down 0.2% from Q3 of 23. So thanks to the administration.
It all happened. It all happened.
Sorry, caveat. I didn't read the end of it.
This is journalism in works. Real life journalism.
My bad on that.
No, they said these home ownership rates are specifically for those under 35 years old.
Oh.
I don't know. I didn't ask for that.
ChatGPT is
He
ageist.
just knew. He knew who he was asking.
Yeah.
He's like, let's get relevant.
Well, and that's actually a good point, because when you start pulling those metrics out, you can say the home ownership rate is higher than it's been in the last 10 years for who? They segment them out, and it could be millennials, it could be this age bracket or this income bracket or whatever. So anyway, Mike and I both, I think we're all on the same page that the data is kind of like you can pull out whatever you want, but anyway, thanks to the administration, you've got some other bullet points on there. Should we talk about them?
Well, we can. I'd reckon. Piece number 2, lowering costs for first-time home buyers. So we actually haven't talked about this yet either. The 5% down 3 to 4 unit loan that Fannie Mae just came out with in November. That's a great deal for all the listeners.
So, to give them context on that, you used to only be able to put 3.5% down. You could buy 1 2 to 4 unit property with an FHA loan. As of November 2023, you can put 5% down and buy 2 to 4 unit properties.
Over and over again.
Over and over.
So you get to 10?
You can hold 10 conventional loans in your personal name, but by the time you get that, you can refi those into a commercial loan and into a pack. So yes, forever. We saw the dude, our speaker at our last meetup, that ADU guy used whatever it was, 60 owner-occupied loans or something like that, whatever it was.
Let's put it this way. If you're worried about running out of 10 owner-occupied loans, you've got a different problem. The problem you think you have is not the problem you have.
Yeah.
But to fix affordability outside of the 5% was a $10,000 tax credit.
Oh, is he bringing this up? I literally said 4 months ago, what happened? We've just forgot about this.
First time home buyers.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? I buy a house, I still have to come up with a down payment?
It means go flip a bunch of houses that you can sell for $400,000. That's what it means.
I don't. How does that help?
No, so as a seller to me, right?
Yeah.
So how would I take that? You're taking a demographic that is already out of whack from a supply and demand standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And so what was COVID's problem? You just gave a bunch of gunpowder to buyers.
There was a really bad disease too.
Financially, you gave a lot of gunpowder to a bunch of buyers and made them more lethal with the weapons they had when you did nothing to the target they're shooting at.
Mm-hmm.
And so now all you're doing is upgrading their weaponry, and you did nothing to change the target they're shooting at.
Mm-hmm.
So that target now, instead of getting 1 or 2 bullets at it, it gets 3 bazookas shot at it. And it's like, sweet, blow me up. And the blow up comes in the form of the price and the equity of the seller. So all you're doing is you're giving momentum to buyers to create more equity for sellers. And then this is a sales scenario. So now you've created more equity. You've realized that equity by creating the sale, and you've now created an inflationary event. If we went ahead into all those other things.
You put more money into the market, and you put too much competition up against a supply that can't keep
Exactly.
up.
So
So
it
they're going to
artificially increases
price.
value, and then it releases that value into the marketplace.
No, you misinterpreted that. That's to fix the affordability problem. That's what helps it. Is what. Yeah, you're I think you're framing it as though this isn't going to help, but they are the government. They're here to help.
We're here to help. Okay.
No. It's going to help me as a seller.
Yeah, no.
So I'm going to go buy homes that are worth 400
like
and
that
sell them
was-
for 420.
That was really well articulated. I feel like that came across.
It was.
That
Dane
was-
is messing with you.
I thought.
is.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Well, obviously I know I'm the one messing with you.
So tell us how does this work? If I'm a first time home buyer, I want to buy a home. I get 10 grand toward at the closing table to buy this thing, or I have to buy it and then I get like a $10,000 credit
I think
later when I file my taxes. How does that help?
This one's different. Isn't this one a pre-funded? That was what he ran. So I don't know anything about this, but what he ran on in version 1 was he wanted a pre-funded tax credit.
No, I think this is that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the previous tax credit to get out of the recession was we'll give it to you, but you get it back on your tax return. So you actually had to have money saved and you had to spend that money and you get it back. This is different. You don't even have to have money saved. So if you think you need 3% of a $400,000 home, you now have 10 of the 12 you need to buy. And then you get your closing costs paid for by your seller. And so the government just bought a house for you, even though you didn't need to save any money.
Why wouldn't they just give you a second position lien for the down payment and then collect some more income?
A way to orient, like think about, they have to employ 18 million people to.
Okay.
It's just easier to hand you money.
Yeah.
But then also
Especially
the
in the
money
form of
comes
tax
back to
credit.
them just through taxes. So instead of getting the second position loan paid off,
Yeah. They don't like to recuperate money. They just want to get
they
it
just
out.
they just pull more.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Mike just said he ran on the first time this credit, and now it sounds to me like he's running again on this other.
The timing is impeccable, isn't it?
So we're in election year.
You remember that promise I didn't complete?
4 years ago.
Yeah.
Now we're going to actually do it this time. So
Yeah.
the talking heads had said that he was not going to mention housing at all in this address, and it wasn't in any of the pre-notes that were shared with any journalists or anything. And then when the speech was given, I still haven't listened to it. The way I understand it is this was a little bit off record, and he kind of did it right towards the tail end. It was sort of like a mic drop moment, like, oh, and by the way, here's the cherry on top. We're going to fix everything. And here's all the things that we've done, and here is what we're going to continue to do to fix this problem.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, to me, we're really just wasting time talking about something that's not going to happen, because when you listen to a politician who's got something to lose, there's no truth coming out of their mouth. There's nothing that he's reading off of a script that they told him. And you talk about marketing, that's just, they went to Chat GPT and said, what should we say to make people vote for us? And that's what it told him to say. And he read it.
It relates well with that crowd that only owns 38% of their demographic only owns real estate.
Since we're wasting time talking about that, we should talk about
It's
deals.
fun.
Wait.
Oh, deal.
Wait, this will
Trevor's falling
this
asleep.
will be the last piece. We'll be quick because I do want an explanation on what this means. I have no idea, and I kind of tried to look, but Mike sounds like he knows. The low income housing tax credit, LIHTC.
Yeah.
Expanding the budget, $37 billion, which is, I don't know, kind of a lot for the whole country. But it reduces the private activity bond financing requirement from 50% to 25%. What does that mean?
Yeah, so I don't know.
Oh, cool. That's how.
But you know me, I'm willing to put my something out there.
I'll finish the sentence then. In order to leverage more private capital.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Into LIHTC deals and build more affordable housing.
Public-private partnerships is what they're...
It's exactly what they're explaining. So changing the ratio.
Their utopia is they're looking to bring in private sector to help bridge the gap to get these units out.
But I heard the ratio different. So the last sentence contradicted what I heard. Was that it sounds like they're lowering the private liquidity requirement and adding in more government funds.
That's what. Yeah, that was my.
So they're changing now. They're requiring less private capital.
So in order to close the loan,
exactly,
you only need 25%.
In that world, that's really just higher leverage, right?
Yeah. So they're bringing higher leverage to the actual people that are willing to do it, which is the way. It is a way to solve the problem.
Yeah.
Because the problem is we don't have enough developers that know this doing this. And so if you can make it easier for them. So the thing now, you don't have to add more developers. You just take the developers and double what they're doing. Mm-hmm. That is actually like, there's how you solve a problem.
That's a good incentive.
It is a good incentive.
Because that was your argument earlier.
100%.
You're instead of doing the back end, which is we already have a house, now let's make it more expensive.
Right.
I think that, I do.
Don't load the buyers up with ammo.
Yeah.
Load the builders and developers.
Well, they're doing both.
Well,
they're doing both.
Give the developer a carrot.
They're being less smart in the home ownership world.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't actually have a real solution, which is how do you lower construction costs to make new construction affordable to new home buyers, that's what we're doing in middle income housing. And so that's a much more complicated.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Then instead of throwing all this money at subsidies and having them build a unit for $350,000 unit and they're writing checks, I mean, why don't they just waive SDCs and lower taxes?
That's part of it.
Why don't they subsidize lumber and plumbing materials?
So that's part, and this is happening to us real life right now. So we've got SDC waivers based on affordability. So we can, if we cap price at $455,000, we have to sell it to a buyer who only makes $100,000 or 100% of AMI. And that's $117,000. So those numbers work out really, really well. So the problem is you cut off anyone that's above 100%. And when you get into the actual marketplace, if you have 100% AMI, you can't. The competition is now you have people that really, the reality is they make 110% of AMI and they can't compete without the income restricted units, but they make too much to afford the income. So Portland now just increased it from 100 to 120%. And we've got units on the market that have this. And so we have buyers like, oh my gosh, 120%, we can afford this. They go to read the program says 100%. And so we have a special carve out for the SDC waivers that we got because they're doing this test program. It says maybe 120% is better than 100%. And it's playing out right now in the marketplace that 100% affordability, 100%, having it at 100% doesn't actually reduce the competition where you want it reduced. And so now you have to expand it to bring them into this other segment. But then the problem it's the problem for the buyer. It's good for me as a developer is now you just increase the buying pool of the people who could potentially buy my artificially restricted unit. So there's pros and cons to any change that you make. And the reason we have these changes is because we can't do the one thing that truly helps, which is produce at an economically feasible rate. And part of that is the bureaucracy of developing with the city.
The time, carrying costs. Forget about it. I mean, forget about the material costs. Just look at your carrying costs.
Well, that's why you have.
That's why we always say just lend to real estate investors.
If you're smart.
Everyone out there, don't be an operator. Just lend to people.
If you're listening to this and you have money, give us a call. We'll borrow it.
Yeah, but seriously though,
my number is the right number to call.
We'll put some phone numbers in the bio, the description. All right, Trevor's over it. I liked the LIHTC stuff. That stuff did kind of get me. That's a really reasonable, because we're leverage buyers anyways.
So when he's done with his bond buy book, he's going to go, LIHTC's the most amazing thing in the world. Here's how we're going to ruin all the real estate.
Yeah.
So it's just a different form of a bond.
Wow.
It's a different financing mechanism.
Why isn't capitalism working in the housing market?
production. Capitalism only works when you have adequate productivity.
Why don't we have adequate productivity?
Because of all the time it takes to get a permit.
Artificial restrictions.
Because you have sewer, you have sewer, stormwater, transportation, parks, trees.
Would you say this was a green housing initiative that took place in like 19?
Well, no, like
70.
you have to have these departments because you have to.
Yeah.
Well, you build.
It's better.
Where's all the shit gonna go?
Well,
Right? It needs to go into a sewer
literally.
system.
Yeah, literally.
Do you want your neighbor's stormwater going in your backyard, flooding your basement? Like
Sure.
you have
Sure,
to
sure,
have
sure.
these departments. The problem is how do you have sewer make an exception because it doesn't work in this one scenario because it doesn't work with transportation, or vice versa? In order to make sewer work, transportation needs a change, and you don't have that.
Cohesion.
Right. And so something that's like, well, this just is common sense. You need to give here, you need to give here, and we can have this done today, takes 6-month appeal here, 3-month appeal there, and then 12 months down the road, you might have an idea of what you could do if you do another appeal.
Do you think that if they were paying interest on your loan, they would do it faster?
And therein lies the biggest risk in time. Time is the biggest risk.
Yep.
So everything they do to slow it down pulls that many people out of there that are willing to actually build these units we're looking
And that's why the best developers are the ones that understand how to mitigate that timeline. And that's why realtors don't know how to value development property, because they don't understand time and cost of capital. And appraisers don't understand entrepreneurial incentive when it comes to a cost approach and yada yada.
So no one knows what's happening.
Only developers who have been in every single aspect know what the whole story looks like.
I guess that is why they get to monopolize it. There's a few dudes.
Why I wanted
really,
to be a
really
developer.
good. Well, you're kind of a home builder now, right?
I innately actually writing a story on this when I
Nuss
claimed
Homes.
2001, 24 years ago, I claimed I'm going to be a developer, and I got laughed at in the bagel shop.
You
In
claim-
the bagel shop. Why do you still hold that with you? You were in a bagel shop.
It was a time. It was a
Low time.
no. It was a great time in my life. It was a transition time.
Oh.
Yeah,
Wait, who laughed at you? Was it the bagel seller? Or
friend
was
at the
it-
time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Wow.
you are a developer, and then me and Gabe are also developers. We split that lot.
When you say we,
You were on title.
I was on title, but you did all the work.
Yeah, you're a developer.
I don't have the patience.
You signed it. Your signature ended up on something that created something.
Speaking
Good
of
job.
that, what was that deed that we got sent on that? Not that we should bring that up, but
No, that's not right now.
was that wrong? All right. I don't know.
All right, next up.
I don't know.
Trevor screwed something up.
I don't know.
No.
I'd
it's-
forward it on to Gabe.
No, I know what it is. I'll
Okay.
explain
Just
to
to
you later.
split the lot, we had to jump through
Oops.
a lot of.
So okay, so what that is that deed we did 100% loan on this. Let's talk about a deal. Perfect. So okay, we bought this property. It was a 4-plex. We bought it 100% financed. I liked it because it had a 4,000 square foot separate tax lot, not separate legal lot, which I learned are two very different things. I thought I was just getting a free lot with this thing. I was not. I had to go through and divide it, which took 12 or 16 months or something like that. But what Dane is talking about is our property manager just sent us a deed of reconveyance and was like, do you want this? Like, what is this? I haven't looked at it super close, but to get the 100% financing, we went and collateralized in second position other properties we own. So they would give the bank, the hard money lender in this case, would give us 100%. So I believe those deeds are just reconveying.
Yeah.
They're taking their name off of our other
off
collateral.
second position. So
Yeah,
that's what those are. I haven't looked at that close one.
What they're saying, that's a pat. That's what you want. That's the pat on the back. Good job. We now are happy with your collateral.
Yes.
We're going to release all that other stuff. Good job, Trevor.
Well, we paid them off.
Yeah, we paid it off.
I think
that doesn't matter.
I think that's actually what made him happy.
That always makes a lender happy.
Yeah.
So we disposed of that property in a way, and then have a free and clear lot.
In a way.
And that way was we sold it to Dane because he's house happy.
Are you living there yet?
He's
No.
moved in on the
I'm-
60-day notice.
I am going
Do
to.
you have a credit card now?
He's
I'm not
moving
gonna
on
pull that
up.
out. Yeah.
So you're going to live there.
I
next-
have.
I'm still going to love that.
I
Buying a
have-
house before ever getting a credit card.
All right. For the record,
No, that should be a claim to fame.
That was
should
my
be on your resume.
5th
Personal credit card. Personal credit card.
Yeah, which for everybody out there listening, very different things.
For
Yeah.
the record, he bought
Yeah.
a 10-plex
And then a house.
before he ever bought the house.
Or brokered a deal.
He bought a 10-plex and then a house and then another 4-plex and then got a credit card.
And then bought 5 units with my credit card.
Whoa!
Oh,
that's a
you
good
did?
credit card.
Yeah.
We just closed on that deal we were talking about a couple episodes back.
Yeah.
Hermiston.
And
5
Hermiston.
houses.
The watermelon houses.
We closed
Yeah.
on it.
They were ripe.
Yeah.
You got a
Yeah.
$24,000 line on your credit card, your first credit card?
Well, we got.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the money's from.
Yeah.
It was credit.
But anyway, that's what those deeds were for. That 4-plex and
yeah.
what was going on.
Yeah. That makes sense now. I forgot that you guys had.
But
blabbed.
talk about how the hoops that they made you jump through. Like for 16 months,
Oh,
I mean, we had to put in a freaking sidewalk.
Oh, so you want to hear from a developer how to develop?
Oh,
okay.
And by the way, this is a tax lot. They're charging us taxes on this lot, but they won't let us build on it because it's not
not a legal lot already.
So learning experience for people.
Mhm.
This was in Albany. I didn't know you could have a different legal and a different tax lot. The realtor was marketing it as it's just a different lot, right? So I go in to do all this, and then I learn that these are two separate things. Whatever, figure it out after the fact. Then I go through the whole process of how to divide it. I don't know what to do. So I call the city, ask them what the next steps are, do what they say, keep doing all this back and forth. They eventually give you your conditional approval.
Mhm.
And then I had to go in and add a sidewalk and get easements on it and do all this stuff. And I just hand sketched all these drawings on a piece of graph paper, which I learned works perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm. It does.
Yeah. So I would just follow along and I would read the thing, and sometimes I wouldn't know what the words meant at all.
Yeah.
And then I would just do my best and send it back to them, and they would give it a thumbs up. And I was like, I don't think they know what these words mean either. And eventually it got split. So
The best part is when in permitting, they make a big, huge deal about this issue. And then when the inspector goes, they don't even fucking look at it. Then you're like, I didn't even have to do what they wanted because, you're lucky that you actually had the zoning that allowed you to make that a legal lot of record. I almost bought a property, got 2 days prior to closing, where I bought a property that you could not make a legal lot of record. You did not have the zoning.
The zoning.
Yeah, because it was done at a time prior to the zoning code, and then this current zoning doesn't allow this density. And so now you figure it out.
Like the lot was too small.
Yep.
If you would have split it.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Side note on that, you said the worst part was that something or another. The worst part on that was that the sidewalk had to be built in front of the vacant lot, which we're about to go build a duplex on, and have to tear up the sidewalk so that we can put utilities in.
So you had to do an actual land partition, which sucks.
So Dane bought the 4-plex and we own the lot.
we own this lot free and clear that we can take to the bank and get a loan on. And
And then you're going to find out that that's not actually enough liquidity, and you still have to bring cash to the table.
is that what we're gonna
Mike,
find out?
Yeah.
we're going to find out that we have an owner-occupied 5% down construction loan.
That's true. I do need a new place to live in. So now, or Dane does, because he owns the 4-plex next door, and this thing can be built in a year and he can move into his duplex.
Yeah. That's
Or Gabe, are you looking to move?
plan.
I might, sure. I
Yeah.
like Albany.
That is the key to the liquidity. Now you're going to be able to take cash out with the construction loan.
I know.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
No, so the plan is to take it to the bank with some sort of loan in some way and build it.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact details yet.
The plan is that.
You can build a duplex on 4,000 feet.
Yes. The loan, depending on the loan type, we might do a house and an ADU or maybe a duplex.
Ask us what the difference is.
The difference between a duplex and a house and ADU?
Yep.
What's the difference?
I don't know. Mike, you tell us.
Are you in a multifamily zone or a single family zone?
We are in a single family zone.
Oh,
Okay,
that's
so it's the ratio and the size of
Oh, wait, no, we are in a multifamily zone.
Yeah, so you don't have
You're
a house in
fourplex.
I
it.
don't
So
know.
you don't have those. That does not exist. A house in an ADU does not exist in a multifamily zone. You have 2 units. One's bigger than the other.
That's what I was going to say. But from the lender's perspective, they have to call it one of the. Yeah.
It depends on the loan type.
Yeah, that is true. The one that we found.
We'll go back to Mike before we build it to see if he approves of our plans.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. We've got a pretty good builder on our hands.
Yeah, you guys are fine.
What, you want to?
Yeah, well, unless you have more questions on that.
No.
Oh, no.
No, we were just talking about it. It's good to hear a real life story of what the bureaucracy is. Imagine if you wanted to go build a 100-unit apartment complex. Imagine the levels that you have to go through when you had to do this over 16 months just to get a tax lot turned into a legal.
So I could do, if I went back and did this, I could probably do it in 6 months knowing the process now. The mistakes I made was I listened to the surveyors who were telling me they didn't really know. They were saying, hey, this needs to be done in some sort of order. And they're like, we're going to charge you like 70 grand to do this. I'm like, there's no way it costs that much. Surveyor says like, you have to get the sidewalk done before I go out there, which wasn't true. It was just bad info. So I could have compressed the whole timeline, ran a few things in parallel path and done it.
Yeah, because you would have had a approved plat and a final plat. You do the sidewalk in between. You could have run the building permits, but then you have to align your financing up. So maybe that's not.
So I haven't even done building permits yet and all that.
That's what I mean. The only way to do it was to do that parallel.
Well, no. So it took me 16 months just to divide it because you had to go place new pins and do different things. And like they were like, oh, the sidewalk needs to be done before this. The surveyor just didn't know at that time the actual order of operations. And I could have thought about it a little more, but I also wasn't worried because we had plenty of
time. Well, and so for the listeners, any jurisdiction, you go to the planning department and they have it carved out your timeline and these are the scenarios and you put it in an application and then there's a completeness check. And so you can rely on the people at the city they have to make sure your application's complete. And if it's not, they'll tell you what's incomplete. And so sometimes it's better to rely on the actual person processing the paperwork than it is a professional that's then using their life experience to then give you answers to something that may not apply to your project. And that's where, again, professionals, be a professional rather than hire professionals.
That's hard.
It is hard.
I don't want to work that hard. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us here on Deal Junkies. We'll see you next time.